Shalom, first and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahushai, Ba'Hashem, Rakal Kadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the great millstone who teach the truth and sincerity. The Shadat Yakim that's out there on the four corners of the earth proclaiming this truth. Bracha the Yahweh, Bracha the Yahushai, Ba'Hashem, Rakal Kadash, Bracha Thumb. So, while the elect of us didn't celebrate that bullshit yesterday, nor are we going to celebrate New Queer's Day, because that's really what this place is, the place of Sodom and Gomorrah, place of Sodom and Egypt spiritually. Now, we're not going to celebrate the Queer New Year, because we know that this whole place is nothing but folly. So, no, we're not going to have a holly folly solstice. We're not celebrating any of that bullshit. Not to mention the New Year is really when the spring begins. But nonetheless, though, while everybody was sleeping, here's what was going on, is if you believe the United States is really withdrawing, I don't see any form of withdrawal. I just see a bunch of double talk. Here's what's going on. Gomer is continuing its operation against the PKK. Heavy machinery coming in. Really what happened is Edom, got chased off by Gomer. So the U.S. knows it's not number one anymore. All right, while that was going on, more airstrikes against Syria. This is the Israeli state, Amalek.
Syria right now. So what the reports are saying...
Hold on a second.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Seago, and apparently Israel is doing airstrikes against Syria right now. So what the reports are saying is that Syria is shooting down Israeli missiles coming into Syria. Oh, holy crap. This is apparently footage of Syria shooting down one of Israel's missiles or airstrikes coming in to hit Syria. As you may have known, Syria has also been insulting the Turkish president over President Trump's withdrawal. Oh, holy shit. Wow. Let's just look at that again. So, apparently Israel's now going back into Syria, agitating the region because they are pro-war. Full evidence is now on view, ladies and gentlemen. Here's video footage of rockets being launched in Syria, Damascus. Wow. Imagine seeing that you're right outside your house, and it's Christmas. What the hell was that? Wow. Holy crap, this is nuts, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Syria's not messing around with Israel anymore, that's for sure. My name is Seago, subscribe and like my videos. Syria is now taking out Israel's, let's say, airstrikes with precision. So I'll put you guys on the links on the matter, and have a good one. Have a Merry Christmas.
And here's more, the fortress of Ephraim ceasing. Because Syria and Ephraim are connected together into what's happening. So here's what's going on, is now you're seeing, Donald J. Trump pretty much has shut down the government until he gets that wall. Well, here's some more killings, because, Esau loves killing. The more killing he can do, the better off he feels about it. Here's another boy that they killed.
To another top story this hour, an 8-year-old Guatemalan migrant boy dies hours after he and his father were detained by U.S. border security agents.
Not to mention
U.S.
microchips.
Customs and Border Protection says the boy was taken to a hospital in New Mexico on Monday. He was later released after being diagnosed with a common cold and fever. The boy was returned to the same hospital after starting to vomit. He died in the early hours of Tuesday. The official cause of death has not yet been announced. Earlier this month, another Guatemalan child died in U.S. custody. The death of the 7-year-old girl fueled criticism of President Donald Trump's immigration policies.
So, while that's going on, here's some more. In Syria,
Turkey is charging forward with its planned offensive into eastern Syria, awaiting the withdrawal of American forces from the area. Turkish-backed fighters are already massing on the front line of a town held by Kurdish-led forces, which Turkey views as terrorist militants. The Kurds, which fought alongside the United States against ISIS, are up against forces on several fronts, with the Turks, ISIS and the Syrian army all serving as opposition forces. The Kurds once again abandoned in the Middle East, wondering where their protection will come from. US President Donald Trump announced last week America will withdraw all of its 2,000 forces in Syria, a move that will leave control of the oil-rich eastern third of Syria up for grabs. Meantime, Trump has accepted Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan's invitation to visit the country next year. That's according to a spokesperson for Turkey's leader. For further insight, Turkey analyst Yusuf Erim joins us from Istanbul, and with me in studio, senior Middle East correspondent Mohammed Al-Qasim and international affairs correspondent Bianca Zanini. A well-rounded conversation. We'll start with you in Istanbul. Yusuf, great to have you. Now, Turkey will also face a much larger YPG force than it did in previous military operations in Afrin. What's the battle set to look like this time?
Well, when we look at General Dunford's comments, he was talking about training at 30 to 40,000 YPG force east of the Euphrates. Now, I doubt there's that many, but when we look at the Afrin Operation Olive Branch, it was a much smaller YPG force, probably somewhere in the range of 5,000 to maybe 8,000 fighters. We can now expect 2 to 3 times that east of the Euphrates. We can also expect the operation to start at any minute right now. There's reports of heavy troop movement coming in and out. We're seeing reports and the smaller brigades inside the Turkey-backed rebel group have announced that the operation has started, but this is all unconfirmed yet. The Turkish armed forces have not said that the operation has started, but like I said, it could happen at any minute. It looks like Manbij is going to be the first target. That's where the forces are amassing. So we can expect
So you could expect, that this war is going to continue, as it always does. In the meantime, though, they are saying that this is the worst in history since the 1929 economic crash, which is going to bring in the Mark of the Beast. And we know what 2019 is, the year that Esau pushes the Mark of the Beast, the RFID.
Decades for that day. That's after President Donald Trump Stock markets in the US closed Christmas Eve at their lowest in decades for that day. That's after President Donald Trump lashed out at the Federal Reserve System.
The only problem our economy has is the Fed. They don't have a feel for the market. They don't understand necessary trade wars or strong dollars or even Democrat shutdowns over borders.
Following this statement from Donald Trump, rumours started circulating that he might even sack the head of Federal Reserve Bank, Jerome Powell. Despite handpicking him as the chairman a year ago, it would require congressional approval to fire Powell. But the news was enough to drive markets further down. In a bid to reassure investors after one of the worst weeks in a decade, the Treasury Minister made what some are calling emergency phone calls to the heads of the 6 largest banks. Jeffrey Tucker, editorial director at the American...
So there you go. The shit is shutting down while, of course, the U.S. government shutdown is still in effect. Here's more on it.
His demands for border wall funding are met.
I can't tell you when the government's going to be open. I can tell you it's not going to be open until we have a wall, a fence, whatever they'd like to call it. I'll call it whatever they want. But it's all the same thing. It's a barrier from people pouring into our country from drugs. It's a barrier from drugs. It's a barrier.
Trump expressed hope that the wall be completed by the next presidential election in 2020. The remarks come as the shutdown over budget spending is in its 4th day. Closures began at 500 GMT on Saturday after Democrats resisted President Donald Trump's demand for a $5 billion border wall funding. None of the 15 federal departments, including State, Homeland Security, Transportation, Agriculture, and Justice, are partially closed. Hundreds of thousands of federal employees are working unpaid or have gone on temporary leave. A deal to end the funding dispute appears to be a distant prospect as Congress adjourned on the weekend for Christmas. Jason Onuhe is a political commentator and analyst who joins us from Ontario. Well, we heard the U.S. president there in that soundbite, so he's not going to back down. Do you think the Democrats will cave in, or are we looking at something bigger here?
I think that we're looking at something bigger here because this seems to be a very serious red line between both of these sides. The Democrats are not going to budge on this, and the Republicans seem to, for the most part, support Trump in this endeavor. So, I mean, we've got a really, an irresistible force versus the immovable object kind of situation. I think that my hope is that eventually the rest of the Republican Party will eventually cave in to the Democrat demands, because this wall is, in all measures, a bad idea. It's a monstrous waste of money. It's probably the single worst public works project probably in the history of mankind. I mean, it's nothing more than Trump trying to keep at least one of his promises from his campaign, probably the biggest promise in the eyes of many of his followers. So I think there's a very tremendous struggle going on here. I think Trump sees very much that his presidency is in jeopardy with all the investigations being carried out against him, and perhaps he sees that the end is near, and this is the legacy that he wants to leave in his presidency. Every president wants to leave some kind of legacy behind, and I think the wall, in his case, is his. I think maybe he's being told to back down on a lot of things. He's being told to be careful how to approach things, try to be more diplomatic, try to be more of a politician and less of a demanding CEO, and that's beginning to irk him. This is something that he really wants, and the political consequences of which don't seem to be of any concern to him whatsoever. They don't really matter. Trump wants what he wants, and that's the way that he's used to running the U.S. government, with essentially as much unchecked power as possible, and is not afraid to remove people from his own party, from his own cabinet, from his own government positions if he doesn't get what he wants. I think we have a very nonsense position. This wall is the only obstacle between the Republicans and the Democrats in this situation. Other than that, we've got a relatively workable plan that really doesn't change anything, but it really keeps things going, at least maintains things the way that they are, that at least many of the essential services, many of the things that need to be done on a day-to-day basis can keep going. But Trump seems to just absolutely put his foot down on this, and this seems to be like the most important thing to him, that it transcends any kind of holidays, it transcends any other kind of issue. This is the number one thing for him right now, and I think that it's going to remain deadlocked for a while until, at least in my opinion, maybe some of the more level-headed members in the Republican Party agree to back down from this and allow business to continue as usual.
Thank you for that. We appreciate it. Jason Onuhe, political commentator and
So there you go. This thing will continue. And here's a little bit more. I think this one will run off, so I'll try to get the rest in another part.
It's been very positive. Things are happening that haven't happened in our government for a long time. The other night, as you know, we had a vote on border security, and I think we want to discuss this just for a second. But the House of Representatives voted 217 to 185, approving strong border security and the money necessary to take care of the barrier, wall, or steel slats, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same. It was a tremendous evening for the Republicans, to be honest with you, because the level of spirit, the level of happiness, a lot of people came out, they said they've never seen, one man in particular, he's been there for over 20 years, he said, I've never seen spirit or enthusiasm like this. They came from all parts of the country. A couple of them came from other parts outside, so I say all parts of the world, in order to vote. And they voted, and it was an incredible vote.
So there you go. He wants to fulfill his legacy, because he might actually be a one-term president. Then Bernie Sanders, the Amalekite, takes over from there. We'll just see what 2019 holds. But I don't say Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakal Kadash, Barakathum. Until next time.